صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك المظلومين صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله يا مظلوم يا غريب كربلاء لعن الله الظالمين لكم يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما صلوات
صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For the last 2 nights we have been discussing the existence of God. Tonight we will not be discussing the existence of God, but rather, and you've heard me mention this term twice now, we'll be discussing the Godless Society, which in fact actually is the entire world. If you want to take the world as a society, right now we live in a godless world. And tonight I would like to explain what I have meant by us living in a godless world. And I have to take you with me a few hundred years back to Europe. So bear with me. I need you to focus with me on this one. So a few hundred years ago in Europe, Christianity and the church and the state were one. The church would rule society. And this state was very oppressive to the people. The people were not allowed to read the Bible for themselves. Only the Pope was allowed to read and interpret the Bible, and the elites. If you disagreed with the church, you would be tortured, you could be killed to purify yourself, to atone for your sins. And the people were getting sick and tired of this system of life. Science, books were burnt, science was left on the back bench. And so a few oppositions came out against this way of life. I'm going to talk about 2 movements today that affect us to now and actually are some of the foundations of the modern world, and how much of our lives are still affected by these movements that happened in Europe centuries ago. Now, the first movement is the Protestant Reformation. There are a group of Christians who they wanted to change the way in which Christianity was taught. That's the first group. Because they had enough of this, where everything is supposed to be miserable, because that's what their theology was, that this world is supposed to be miserable, so the oppression was expected, so it's okay. You will have happiness in the afterlife. There's no happiness in this world. So this Protestant Reformation came out and said, no, we have to change the way in which this religion is being taught. We want to remain Christians, but not in this way. The next opposition that came out against this grouping of religion and state is the movement of science. Now, science, of course, is not a bad thing. Science has brought us so much good in life. At this time, the people of knowledge felt that science could bring us so much technology and could progress society, much more than religion can, and religion has brought us all these wars and all this misery. So something had to change. They had enough of these preposterous claims where the earth is the center of the universe, and for example what happened with Galileo, etc., etc. And so now these two movements were at the forefront to change the way in which society was governed. And so a revolution took place, a very bloody revolution, one of the bloodiest revolutions this world has seen. And everything changed, and they separated the state from the church. They were now separated, and now Europe was rediscovering which values should be the center of society. And so there were many philosophers in this open market throwing around ideas at what should be the central values of the human being in this new world, where the religion is on one side and the state is governed by something else. Now science is at the forefront. And if you think about the world and all the societies that have emerged in the world, a lot of them in history were religious societies. So a religion governed a community or a society. And usually in a religious society, religious teachings are the most important thing in that society. And if religious teachings are the most important thing in that society, that means the people who taught the religion were at the top of the hierarchy of that society. So it's the imam or the guru or the priest or the whoever, whatever have you. Whoever was the leader of the community in terms of religion and faith, the teacher, he would be usually at the top of the hierarchy. By the way, I'm not glorifying anything. I'm on no side right now. I'm telling you how it was. And so, what would these people stress? People of faith who led the society would speak about religion. And this is true for Islam also. They would stress on three main things. All religious societies would stress on three main things. The first one being God, that there is a creator and He created us and our life is in servanthood to Him. That's number one. Number two, all these religious societies would stress on something called the soul, this metaphysical, unseen part of us that we must save, that we must discipline. And the third thing is the afterlife, that this is not the only world. There is an afterlife that goes on forever, or it could be reincarnation. Whatever it be, religions usually taught these three things: God, body, and afterlife. All these three things cannot be seen. They are based on faith. So these three things could not be seen. Now what happened is, when these movements came out, they replaced these three components. And these three components are true of Islam also. Thank you. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And these three things are true of Islam also. We also preach God, we also preach the soul, and we also preach the afterlife. But now these things were to be replaced. Once the state and religion were separated, this is to be replaced now. And I'll tell you how it was replaced. Instead of God, people wanted to look to science. Science, something that we can experiment on, something that we can observe, make a hypothesis and draw up conclusions. So we can have new technology, inventions, architecture. Look how much our society is growing through science. And so the universe became this new big thing that replaced God. The universe. Right? That we look into space, trying to find our meaning, trying to find if there's other life out there, trying to communicate. This is what replaced number one. Number two, instead of the soul, in this society now, what was focused on was the body. And you would notice now in recent times, compared to the rest of history, there's never been such an emphasis on the body and the way it looks or its health, or as much knowledge about the body as we have right now. And that's a great thing. It's also a great thing how much knowledge we have about the universe. But bear with me until I get to my point. So the body was focused on. The soul was pushed to the side. I can't see the soul. I don't know where the soul is. I can't touch it. I can't experiment on it. The body is real though. So the body took place instead of the soul. Number three, instead of the afterlife, instead of thinking, oh, I'll be happy in the next life. It's okay if I'm miserable in this life. No. We want to have a good life in this life, so let's study sociology, anthropology, public relations, the human sciences, psychology. These took place instead of the afterlife. Now someone can say, no, these things are very important. Of course they are. These things are great for us. But I'm talking about they replaced them. My argument though, when I say replaced, is they replaced it in a very dangerous way. This is the very dangerous thing that affects us till now. This is the whole point of the history lesson. When this happened in Europe, they wanted to spread this around the whole world. Even people envied it because of how much they were progressing. They wanted to spread this ideology around the world. And so they didn't say stop believing in God. They didn't say stop believing in the body, in the soul. They didn't say stop believing in the afterlife. They didn't say that. They said believe in God, it's okay. And believe in the soul and believe in the afterlife. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's very, very dangerous because the universe is real. And the body is real. And these sciences are real. So it's okay, you can believe in God if you want, just keep it to yourself. Right? You see how dangerous that is? It doesn't matter now about proving God or not proving God. Fine, prove Him all you want. Just keep Him to yourself. It doesn't matter. God will have no role in your life, really. Medicine is real. The body is real. And the universe is real. It's something we can experiment on, something we can observe. So if you want to believe in the unseen world, that's you, man. Do your thing. It doesn't matter to us. As long as it doesn't affect society. This is the ideology that was spewed out. And this, my brothers and sisters, is the ideology that even we hold until today. We hold that ourselves. This ideology went around the whole world through colonization, through imperialism. Even our ancestors, every single one of us in this room, all of our ancestors have tasted this colonization. And they were affected by this ideology. Even now, if you go to Lebanon, most people here are Lebanese. In Lebanon, the education system is a secular education system in which they teach what the ideology wanted to teach. And so right now, although many of us are here and we were doing these majalis for Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, and we could wear the clothes and recite the prayers 5 times a day, and a dua here and there, but in truth, your attitude is the same attitude that was intended by the European ideology. It is the same that they wanted. The way we think, in my opinion, who cares about your opinion? I'm sorry. That's how we're raised though. Where in my opinion, and everyone's opinion is worthy. And who cares about Allah's opinion anymore? Right? We don't even think. But Allah has rules and laws to put down. They colonized our language. If you want to take over a people, take their language. And that's what they did to our ancestors. All of us have tasted it here. And all of us have been affected by this. Even now, if you go back, you can see the way they speak to you. Ça va, merci. Right? In Lebanon. It's true. You know when Malcolm X, in the autobiography of Malcolm X, when he went to Beirut, he says, I didn't even feel like I was in the Middle East. It was the same as the West. And that's truly how it is. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And so we have all tasted this ideology and it has brought us up. And the way we live our lives right now, not just Muslims by the way, Christians, Muslims, people of all religions, religion plays a very small role in their life. They do the things that they're supposed to do just to get out the way. And some of us, yes, we love it, but actually we're not following the true religion because you can't tell the difference between us and most other people. And if we are following the religion the way it should be, you should be able to tell the difference between us because we grow, we're supposed to grow. And that's why you have people, even people born into our families that say, why should I pray? I'm a good person, right? I'm good. I have a job, I take care of my family, I'm a good person. If I pray, that means that if you pray, you're better than me, right? In my opinion, that's not true. I'm sorry, who cares about your opinion? You either follow the religion the way it should be followed, or don't try to change it. You can't change it. It's like you're mocking God, and God will not be mocked. And the way in which, right now, even the way in which our parents have raised us, and let's not make the same mistake. And our parents did it out of goodwill. I'm going to mention some things now. People here are going to think these are good things. And that's true, they are good things. But I'm trying to tell you, think about them in the context of the ideology of the Europeans that have colonized our people and our ancestors. When we are brought into the world, our parents raise us. What's the number one thing that our parents drill into us? The number one thing is education. And I'm a big fan of education. Education is fantastic, but not to be the number one thing in life. Because why do they teach us so much when we're young to go to school to do what? Why? To get a job. Why? To make money. That's it. That's it. That's what we're taught from a young age. I still remember when I'm 13, 12 years old, thinking, what am I going to be when I grow up? Because I need to get money to take care of my family, right? Grow up, get an education, have a family. That's all wonderful and fantastic, and Islam is not against that. But number one in society should be Allah. That's number one. See, that's why whenever you say, I want to go to Hawza, A'udhu Billah, you can't go to Hawza. Right? A'udhu Billah, for anyone to say, I want to go and study Islam, why are you going to study Islam? What kind of job are you going to get? With a degree in Islamic sciences or Islamic studies. Right? Because who cares? It's not truly about knowledge anymore. It's not. It's about having a certificate with a picture to hang on the wall. Masters of this, masters. We're not really masters of anything anymore. I'm doing my masters right now. I'm not a master in what I'm studying. I feel like I'm just beginning. These are all names and titles that are not true. Right? Just so we can have some money. So this is an emergence of materialism that we're going through. Do you see how this has affected us? Now, if we go back to the Protestant Reformation, these Christians, what did they do? They felt that, well, because we don't want to live this way anymore, we have to change the way in which Christianity is practiced. So, no. Instead of thinking this life is miserable, no. There is happiness that can be attained in this life. In fact, when you are given something in this world, it's because Allah loves you. So you have a new car, Jesus loves you, brother. Right? That means God has blessed you because now you have a new house or a new car. What does that mean? I mean, God is rewarding you through materialism. That's what that means, deep-rooted. It means that when you have more money, that means God loves you more. It's a whole different way of thinking. And by the way, the Muslims are not far behind. We're not far behind. When do we get happy for each other? When we get new houses or new cars, that's when we think, MashaAllah, bro, Allah blessed you. That's a great thing. We should pray for each other. But I'm talking about, why don't you think the same thing for immaterial things with the person? When you see a person that's so humble, why don't we think, MashaAllah, and Allah has truly blessed that person? As much as when they get the car. Because we have a materialist way of thinking. Because that's the society we live in. I don't blame us, but we should break out of it. We need to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, as Bob Marley says. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Someone's gonna get me for that, for quoting Bob Marley. I can already see it coming. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And so, the emergence of materialism happened. And not just the emergence of materialism, but the emergence of something called Scientism. Now, Scientism is, if you will, a worship of science. It's, to put into a statement, nothing is real unless it can be scientifically proven. That's Scientism. And you might think, like, do people actually believe in that? Yes, they do. And intellectual people believe in that. And I've mentioned this in the last 2 lectures of people who believed in Scientism, and that's why they make this mistake. For example, when Stephen Hawking makes the mistake of thinking that empty space equals nothingness because of Scientism. Because you think everything has to be empirically experimented on. And so Richard Dawkins even says that God is just a scientific hypothesis like anything else. So this Scientism, right now, it's not as popular as it used to be in the 30s and the 40s, Most philosophers were able to debunk it, but it's still there, and it still runs a lot of society. And this way of living or thinking entered into the Arab world in the 19th century. And what the Muslims at the time, in Egypt for example, what they were reformers. Well, if you look back at it in hindsight, they were deformers, because it actually worked against us. But they thought, if we can fight against the colonial powers and the imperialistic powers through scientific knowledge, then we can eradicate them. And what they made synonymous was scientific knowledge with the Islamic and Arabic term ilm. Ilm was now synonymous with scientific knowledge. And so now in Arabic, when you want to go to a tafsir Qur'ani, if it's about like scientific or tafsir ilmi or dalil ilmi, this is a scientific proof. Ilm. And ilm was never about science. True ilm is not scientific. True ilm is ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a very mystical term, ilm. But they have made ilm, unfortunately at the time, the Muslims did it to themselves. Ilm became scientific knowledge. And again guys, I stress so no one misunderstands. Scientific knowledge is not something that's looked down upon in Islam at all. Actually, if you look at the Islamic civilization, you would see so many. For example, the telescope was invented by Ibn Haytham, a Muslim scientist, because he wanted to explore space so he can find God. Right? So he can find God in his heart. He's looking to how to know Allah more subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So science can be a way for us, subhanallah, subhanal khaliq. But when science is to take place instead of God, that's different. And so now, in the Islamic world, it's still suffering until today because of that. Because the ilm was made synonymous with science. And now all over the Arab world, you see it. The first to get the iPhones, and that's how we all are as well. We're drowning so much in materialism, in the new phone, the new laptop, the new on Facebook, and the likes, and it's just all materialism. So much materialism, all out there. You know, you go around the Kaaba now, if you're in Hajj, and there are just pictures and flashes everywhere. What happened to the tradition of going in the Kaaba and feeling the winds under the Suhail star? It's different now. You know, they used to say, if your right hand is doing something, don't let your left hand know about it. If your right hand is doing a good deed, your left hand shouldn't know about it. And these days, your right hand does a good deed and your left hand takes a selfie of it. Right? This is what we live in now. This world of just material, because the scientific ideology was at the forefront of anything. No more soul, no more afterlife, no more God. Believe in what you want, but ultimately it doesn't matter. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. But we know all too well that this is a very narrow way of thinking. This is a narrow way of receiving knowledge. Because there's too much knowledge that is not scientific. And we spoke about that. For example, when we spoke about mathematics, if I just told you right now, 1 Indi poo-poo plus 1 Indi poo-poo equals 2 Indi poo-poos. What's an Indi poo-poo? Right? No one knows because I just made it up. But you know that there's 2 of them because it's maths. Right? That's not scientific. Mathematics isn't. It's from our mind. Likewise, logic. When yesterday we used logical formula and the day before with the premises, anything that begins to exist must have an originator. The universe began to exist. The universe has an originator. How did I conclude that the universe has an originator? Through 2 logical premises. Through a formula that's not scientific. Right? As we said, morals and ethics to each other. Our love of justice and mercy, our hate of oppression, that cannot be scientifically proven. How about, for example, if you want to prove everything scientifically, like the love that you feel for your mother or your wife or your husband is the same love releasing dopamine in your brain that you have when you're opening a bar of chocolate. And I'm hoping no one here loves chocolate as much as they love their mother. So if we want to bring it down to just chemical releases in the brain, really, you love chocolate more? So if it just comes down to chemical releases in the brain, then it just comes down to meaninglessness. And no one can deny how much art affects us. Art resonates with us. If we are to say that Homer or Aristotle knew anything, and if it cannot be scientifically proven, why does it resonate with us so much? Why does the Mona Lisa resonate with people? That painting, why? I mean, science can tell you about the chemical makeup of the painting, but they can't tell you why it's beautiful. It can't explain. Science can't explain why it's beautiful. And the ultimate way to debunk scientism is that if you give me the statement of scientism, as I said, what was it? Anything that cannot be scientifically proven is not real. It's irrational. And so religion, for example, is just these stories and superstitions. And unfortunately, that's the attitude that so many of us hold today. When we want to go to the masjid, this is old school, the way our parents think. We'll go to the masjid. They don't know about what's really going on there in the world. And that's wrong. In any case, back to that statement, anything that cannot be scientifically proven is not real. Can that statement be scientifically proven? It can't. The statement cannot be scientifically proven. And so it's self-defeating. So it defeats itself. It's a contradiction. It defeats itself. And so this way of scientism, this way of materialism, it has to change. And it has to change with us from within. Now what does the Quran say? The Quran gives us an Islamic balance in how to be in this world. There is soul and there is body, and we must have both. Unfortunately now, if someone is depressed, it's all, take a pill, you'll be okay. And I don't deny that there are some psychological problems that people must go through, that people do go through. But let us not deny the fact that there are spiritual problems that also affect them, that sometimes a pill will not fix. Professional help psychologically is needed. But not everything should be viewed through a psychological lens. Sometimes there is a anguish in the spirit, and we mentioned this yesterday. And this has to be addressed. And so it's not always just chemical imbalances. You see how they've made us think. Do you see how they've changed our whole ideology? Sometimes I speak to people, wallah, I feel like I'm telling them 2 + 2 is 4, and they say 5. And I realize it's the way we have been taught to think. The way we think, just the way we even think, is full of fallacies. It's all fallacies, all contradictory thoughts. We don't think properly. We're not taught everything that we should be taught in school. And that's why Mark Twain says, I never let schooling get in the way of my education. You see? I never let schooling get in the way of my education. If you want true education, there's much to do. Do not rely on just school. School is great if you want to get the mark, really that's what you're going for. You want to get the grade and the certificate. But true knowledge, seeking true knowledge is different. True education is different. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم لا أقسم باليوم القيامة لا أقسم بالنفس اللوامة. Right? He swears by the day of resurrection and by the soul that feels guilty again and again and again. Why? Why these two things? Why do you swear by the soul that feels guilty? Because sometimes in this day and age, guilt is seen as something that's bad. Like, you shouldn't feel guilty. You should be happy all the time. You should always be happy. And be yourself. Whatever that means. Everyone says it, and I don't know what it means. Be yourself. Right? What does that mean? It says be yourself and be happy. And there's nothing to worry about. Why feel guilty? And actually, no, guilt is a gift for us. If we were right now, if there was a fire alarm and it went off, we would all run outside because we know that there's a fire. We wouldn't see the fire, but the alarm went off, so we know there's a problem. Guilt is that fire alarm going off inside us when we're about to do something wrong. And you start feeling, I don't feel so good about this. Right? That's the alarm telling you, hey, come back. You're going a bit too far away. Come back. Right? That guilt is a gift. But guilt is unseen. Guilt is immaterial. And again, if you want to go back to saying chemical imbalances, I just gave a whole speech about why not everything is material. Right, come back. That guilt is telling you to come back. Islam is a religion, it's the only religion that has this perfect balance between body and soul, where knowledge is so highly looked upon, at the same time as faith, at the same time it's you seek knowledge through believing in God. One Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, "Al-ilm laysa bi kathrat at-ta'allum, bal huwa nur min Allah yaqdhifuhu fi qalbi man yasha." He says, knowledge is not about how many books you read. Knowledge is not about strenuous study. Knowledge is nur from Allah, sent into the hearts of whom He wills. That's what knowledge truly is. So if you want to separate knowledge from God, you will have nothing. You will have just information. And we can rant about information to the end of days. It makes no difference. True knowledge is in the heart. And Islam has this perfect balance between the unseen and the seen. Even when we pray in jurisprudence, it's better to keep your eyes open when you pray. I know most people close their eyes, but it's better to keep your eyes open. Why is that? Right? You are praying to the Lord of the worlds, yet your eyes are still in the dunya. It's a training for you, so that whilst you're living in this world, Allah is always with you still. You are in the dunya, but you are with Allah. You are with the people, but you are with Allah. We don't go off into caves. We're not ascetics. We don't live alone, a life of loneliness. No. We live in the middle of society. But we live a spiritual life at the same time. Our cave is the cave before Fajr. That's our cave. When you want to go to your cave, you wake up 20 minutes before everyone else. And you spend that time and you meditate and you pray. You pray that night prayer and you pray that Fajr prayer. That's your cave. If you want to get away from the noise, you want to feel that spirituality that everyone always talks about, right? And it's not doing it for that. It's not doing it for the spirituality. It's doing it because He is the Lord and He loves that. And if you love the beloved, you do what the beloved loves. If you love the beloved, you do what He wants of you. That's a true lover. Right? There has to be a balance. And this balance should be taught to us from when we're kids. And if it wasn't, we should discipline ourselves and teach it to our children. So when our young child says, "Baba, Mama, I want you to carry me, I'm tired," you say, "Okay, but I'm only going to carry you for 10 seconds. It's not that you're making life harder for them, but you're getting them used to not getting everything they want, so that they don't feel like satisfying desire is always the number one thing. Right? I'm hungry, I want to eat right now. We'll eat. Wait 5 minutes. We'll eat this much. Right? Get them used to limiting those desires from early, so that they're not people of desire. So they're not people of the earth only. Let them be people of the sky. And let us be people of the sky too. In Islam, this balance is everywhere. Why do we pray 5 times a day? And it's better to pray on time, right? It's in the dunya. It's to schedule our day. That's materialistic in terms of it's physical. At the same time, you're using it to speak to the metaphysical, right? Fasting, limiting that desire. There's this discipline that we have where you live in the world, but you live a life of the unseen at the same time. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he said, even if the curtains of the unseen were lifted, my beliefs would not increase. I would not increase in belief. Even if the unseen was lifted, I already believe 100%. Right? And sometimes our problems, our spiritual problems can come from something physical. I mentioned that the other night with eating, for example. Kalam, manam, ta'am. These 3 things affect our souls. How much you speak, how much you eat, and how much you sleep. Or how you eat and how you sleep and how you speak. All these things affect us. So if you come and, brother, I'm not feeling spiritual in my prayer, don't be surprised if I ask you, what have you been eating? Have you been sleeping well? How much have you been eating? You know, you can never be furthest away from God when you're on a full stomach. That's when you're furthest away. When you're not really bothered to spend time in worship is when you're on a full stomach. For example, sleeping too much or sleeping too little, where your body is not rested, and so you're not feeling like you want to pray. Right? It's all connected. If your body is rested, you pray well. It's physical and metaphysical, body and soul. This is all throughout Islam. Everything, if you look at everything, there's body, there's soul. Body, soul, body, soul. You see the perfect balance. Not one takes place of the other. And ultimately, the body is the vehicle in which we have to transcend. Your body is only the car that takes you to your destination, and your soul is the driver that leaves the car and goes inside. Just like we came inside this tent today. The soul is that, but whilst we're living here, you balance in between them. And so, brothers and sisters, let us take this opportunity on these nights, the best of nights, to change the ideology with which we have been truly brainwashed. The songs we listen to, the movies we watch, the books we read, the people we hang around with, it's all brainwash. Everything is brainwash. Everything you come across is brainwash. And brainwash isn't a bad thing. You can brainwash yourself with something good. When I was first going to Hawza, I remember a very close family member told me, Hussain, don't go to Hawza, they're going to brainwash you. They're going to brainwash you. And I was scared, and I was like, no, man, they're going to teach me logic. He said, man, they're going to brainwash you through logic. And I went to my teacher and I said, Sheikh, he said that you guys are going to brainwash me. And he said, yeah, we are going to brainwash you. I said, really? He goes, yeah, with water of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, do you want it? And I was like, brainwash me. Right? You choose what you want to fill into your brain. Choose what you want to fill into your brain. Choose which books to read, which people to hang around with. The people you hang around with are going to be the people you become like. 40 days, you'll notice similarities between you two or the group. And if the group is holding you down, you must transcend. You must go forward. If you can't pull them up, leave them. Don't let them bring you down. The music, the lyrics, the swear words that you say, the people that you talk about, the riba, all these things that we live, let us change that. All these things. Change the whole ideology. Brainwash yourselves with pure water. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على The day of Karbala is approaching us as the days built up to Ashura. Muawiyah died, Yazid wants to take the allegiance from the Imam. He sends his messengers, his governor Walid, to take the bay'ah from Imam al-Hussain. Walid sends a message to the Imam. The messenger says, the governor wants to speak to you. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, before he goes to see Walid, he goes to the Bani Hashim. He calls, Ya Abbas, Ya Ali al-Akbar, come with me to see the governor. Stay outside. If you hear my voice go louder, you come inside. Imam al-Hussain goes inside to see Walid and Marwan. They say, Ya Hussain, Yazid wants the bay'ah from you. Imam al-Hussain tells him, someone like me will not give the allegiance to someone like Yazid. At that moment, Marwan tells him, he says, kill him now if he doesn't give the allegiance. Do not let him leave without giving it. Kill him now. It's as if the Imam was so enraged by the threat on his life while Abu Fadl Abbas is still there. He shouted back, "You think someone like you can kill me?" At that moment, Abu Fadl Abbas ran into the palace with a naked sword. They realized they couldn't get the Imam at that time. And so the Imam was to return back to Medina. Medina has been the place of Imam al-Hussain his whole life. It's been his home since he was a small baby. It's the place in which his grandfather is buried. It's the place in which his mother is buried. But now the Imam gathers his family. He tells them, Yazid has ordered that I give the bay'ah. I will not succumb to his orders. But now my family, my friends, the women, the children, we must leave Medina. The time has come for Imam al-Hussain to leave his birthplace. But before he leaves, he needs to go and say goodbye. He goes to his grandfather. He sits down by his grave. He prays and he ends up sleeping. In his sleep, he sees Rasulullah in a dream. Ya Jaddi, look at what your nation has done to me. Take me to you. Look how they treated us after you. But the Prophet replied, Ya Hussain, you can't come here yet because I see you covered in blood, rolling around in your own blood, and you will not be able to come here until you reach the high rank of Shahada. He grabs him by the shoulders and brings him to his chest. The Imam wants to go to his grandfather, but he knows that he must fulfill his destiny. At that moment, a hand touches the Imam and wakes him up. He looks up and sees a woman in a black robe, resembling the robe of his mother. Ya Zainab. Sayyidah Zainab wakes up the Imam. She tells them they must go. Before they leave, the Imam has one more person to say goodbye to go to the grave that no one knows where she is buried. He goes to Fatima, Ya Ummi, watch over me. Goodbye, Ya Fatima. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. لعن الله الظالمين إلى يوم القيامة. صلوات.